Our
Okay.
Speaking of Richard Sanderell and honoring him tonight in his venue, 1428 Poets, and several of us are here gathered in his name. Britt, you may proceed.
For Richard Sanderell. On the way to Adobe Bookstore and Kim Shuck's reading, Richard stops to hug a tree. We were a little early, so he ducked into the next trinket store. A grand welcome. They knew him there. Sequined coat, feathered hat. It does no harm to look good. Smiles all round. Dancing indigenous merchandise. Don't bother wrapping it. 2. Richard gets off the 21 bus to Vesadero and Hayes looks toward us from the well of the back door. Sharon, Buford, Owen, David E., Moe, Garrett, and random passengers, and our sympathetic bus driver. Richard said, I love you all, before hitting the night street again. Richard Sanderell. Another Richard idea. Pop up elder poets reading in the street, in the Mission, in the Haight, Clarion Alley, Valencia Street, Haight Street. A few listen. Uncomfortable store owners, lyrics, rants, and songs, sunlight, and a few raised windows. Richard imagined and wanted a larger crowd. 7/6/2021. Hey, Richard, we miss you so bad it hurts. Hey, Richard, tell us how you feel about USA, about Ohio, about the church, about the planet's fate, about indigenous elders and your favorite poets. Tell us about how to fry an egg. Tell us about jazz, rock, and the blues, all the ridiculous moments and the vivid lunches. The echoes and your silence reverberate deeply as I write this. That's it.
Thank you very much. Brought back memories. A great way to start off. Jane Radis, good to see you again.
Nice to see you. You know, I just have a memory of what must have been the last reading at 1428 Haight, where Richard held those readings. And that must have been, what, late February, early March? Because everything closed down right after that. But I remember him being there, and he said something to me as I left. And I remember the look on his face, and I don't remember what he said, but it was, you know, it's such a good memory. And I just wanted to share that. You know, who knew it was going to be, you know, the last one for a while. But, you know, thank you. Thank you, Richard.
And I knew Richard mostly through this past year and seeing him on the video chats and his I got to know Richard through the conversations and poetry that we shared, and I got to know Richard as a remarkable rebel, and that's how I'll always remember and respect Richard. And so my take is going to be a little bit different, and it's just kind of my take on how I knew the man, but I know he had many layers that I didn't necessarily know. So this is a clip I recorded from a Sacred Grounds in June or July of last year of Richard, and this is what I love. I mean, just speaks for itself.
Okay, I'm on. Hi.
You're on.
I don't know if you can see where my thumb is and that picture there. It's a paint. Actually, Michael Horst, friend of mine, put McClintock or John Wayne on a cross. And he's on there with arrows.
Oh.
So it's a John Wayne on the cross.
Oh.
And he used to take it when he was doing shows, and all the white people who just loved John Wayne were really, really upset.
Richard Sanderell, always had a story to tell. A renegade rebel reciting words so well, attacked the colonist crooks like a toddler with a coloring book. He was always out of line, but never out of his prime. Never kissed white ass or gave any shoe spit shine. He just spit sick lines, a veteran, which I'm gonna miss. Time never sits still for the heroes that come our way under play. Death comes for us all, said the revolutionary from the unmarked grave. Viva la Richard Sanderell! Vietnam changed the man. He fought for peace with the few, punching USA in the teeth. The colonists get the caboose. Indigenous cars cut loose, saw off the white man's noose. For more than 70 years, a lit fuse couldn't be smothered by any excuse. Can someone shut this man up? Was the cry from the rich. The gasping white supremacist ache from the gnaws of his gifted tongue. Better run, Richard won every sprint in the race, aligned with the lonely tribal lands. This poet, pale face. Get off my case! USA screams. The American dreams hides its hypocritical scheme to be shown up when Richard shows up. I know y'all know what I mean. Try as they might, every poetry night at sacred grounds, he held it down beneath the starry, starry night. It took a rogue skeleton with the side to finally take him out of the game. He ain't never gone for good. Respect your elders and name. Richard is one who never sold out, couldn't neuter his sack. He spit back in the cage as a matter of fact. You can't snuff out his flame. It's here to burn false flags. Richard Sanderell kicked ass. Alone in love and First Nation respect was his spirit in all ways. This was a beautiful man, a one-of-a-kind type. USA takes a deep, deep breath. She sleeps a little safer tonight.
Wow. Oh, that video clip with him and then your follow through. Thank you, thank you.
So I think we first met Richard at the open mic we do at the Park Branch, and he became a regular. We saw him pretty much every month, and we heard a lot of his poetry, and as everybody here knows, just really wonderful stuff. We are going to miss him. We already are missing him, actually. So I wrote this. I'm not sure whether the title is USA pronounced USA or USA pronounced USA for Richard Sanderell. And just because you steal something doesn't make it yours. We are still on unceded Ramayatush Ohlone territory. Oh, say can you see slavery by the dawn's early light, genocide, what so proudly we hailed, 2 million jailed, at the twilight's last gleaming, immigrant children screaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars, vote-suppressing registrars, through the perilous fight, equality only if you're white. Why does USA have a national anthem that's racist, sexist, elitist, written by a slave-owning anti-abolitionist? Maybe it does reflect our national character, but I hope we're moving beyond that. Enough of us are anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-elitist, anti-imperialist, anti-war, anti-xenophobic, anti-homophobic, anti-intolerance, that maybe, just maybe, we can enjoy each other, celebrate our differences, help create the common good. Good poetry, good music, good food, good company, good community, good ideals. Let the common good no longer be uncommon. And did you want to say anything?
Just sending love to Richard.
This is a poem, really a modern parable for Richard. And we talked about an earlier version of this, and he appreciated it being a parable too. It's called In My Village. In my village, reporting vision, verifying drive, seeking discovery, enthusiasm, it is crucial to us to assure some last influx of enjoyment. Memories of events promise hideous fraternities coming in out of our beds in dreaming from opposite directions. In my village, they grab you, ask your papers, find misspellings, zip. They hang you right up, or they shoot you right away. You think or you are. It is palm tree and fir that dream in each other. Carrion eaters come from swamps in your foaming head. A furrow in your head, scavenging like Eohippus. Eohippus, it is the first horse. It looks like a pig. They don't care what you say. If you want life, you will jump. You will chew rags. You will moo when they tell you. You will tunnel like a mole. We are left alone. We are alone, wanting a single star, maybe the liberty of anonymity or blowing wind in the grass. We seek a moon to explore a road. Look up in the sky, we don't see what we see. Think stone, but we don't know stone. Stone, what is it? Is it marble, slate? If it is hard, is that stone? Our tiles are peach pits, stone, lime, brown, blue, sandstone are stone hard, and they crumble. It is tales of halted need that flower from broken hope. When it is hard, I know it, like onyx, beautiful, hard, or granite full of black spots and gray. I would want to lick alabaster. In my village, we had religion carved into devils, angels, saints, chipped from mahogany, stitched into tapestry, beaten in leather, or legends, frescoed onto walls, engravings, casts, painted plasters, paper, parchments. Someone holds a dandelion or speaks to birds or points a staff. We had to pray. Lots of years ago, we had to vote. I tell you this who think acorn, fern grow just for you. Not even skunk cabbage. There were no hours to live together. We couldn't swim, slop the cat's water. Voted both machines on mannequin day. They got vicious, threw us up. We got buried like potatoes. You get content with what remains, but someday you think we will change the sparrows, start singing. But this is holy filth. Holy filth. Straight or bent, the tree decides to survive any old parade. In our village, beat back to our vomit, reveries, resolve the yellow lily with the monk. We speak brave truths. Sink back, sink for the self alone. We take a second skin. Hear bonfires of brothers, cloud daggers that take shape. and foot hunger, foot after foot, and our familiar things. We try to bring back some memory from the hunt. In this village, the shy ant sculptor seeks the missing home. We take our fun in corners. There's no lasting magic. Time for crossing is unfaithful, resolute, like the word of youth warring in its brain, vowing to end the strawberry tax. All is scheduled, all for a standard slot in my village. A parable in memory of Richard Sanderell. Thank you.
To USA, he was always known as a fighter. This is dedicated to our friend the poet Richard Sanderell, the cursive writer. You are poet. You were never that hard to find. You were damn near at every open mic in town and wrote with the right to blow our mind. You are poet. With 3 feathers in your blue hat and those beautiful rings, you were the peacock of all the fellas, the only poet in town who could make Liberace jealous. You are poet. You open mic'd in this life and you'll poet on in the next. And you brought us back to childhood with your cursive writing text. Rest in poetry, Richard Sanderell, the cursive writer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. You know, wow, I love that.
Cursive Writer's Credo from Flashes of Brilliance website. Just because you steal something, landmass, continent, vast territory, the island standing erect on top of a giant turtle's back, doesn't mean you own it. Settlement, free country, colonial territory, white man's land, start of empire, gains ill-gotten with instruments, muskets, smallpox blankets, army swords. This is still Indian country. First ones in the bay, first villages in the bay, Yalamu, Wichin. First languages used, Ramaytush, Chochenyo. First walkers on this land of oaks haven't vanished into the past. And you live on a lonely land. That was called Cursive Writer's Credo for Richard Sanderell, the cursive writer. 1946 to 2021. Rest in peace. We love you, brother.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, we're all thinking of Richard, USA Richard, and such a dedication to the Indigenous people. I mean, he is the epitome of that. I did write something for Richard, which I said, I believe, the night that we knew, and so I'm going to say that again. Although there is so many, maybe come back. There's so much poetry that I have that is just beautiful of his. That his original poetry is great. Richard Sanderell Presente. Richard Sanderell, a poet of poets, a poet for poets, one who walked the path of the disinherited, who spoke for the abandoned, for the Ohlone whose land had been stolen, for the misfits, the lost spirits along the road seeking themselves, always thoughtful. He gave me a wolf on a card when I had been ill, saying it represented me as caring, loyal guardian healer, but Richard was the wolf of healing. the wolf of loyalty and guardianship, of poets and lost souls seeking home. Richard transformed the world with his poetry, with his words, with his sequins and jaunty hat, displaying to all the world an insouciance that reflected the great spirit of love and dance, of hope and caring that infused his work. His wisdom, his wizardry, creating of alienation renewal, transformation to belonging, would greet each stranger as a friend, each poet as a special voice. Richard gave to all in need, supporting indeed, embraced the displaced in a circle of poetry. He was the cursive poet, the sage poet of mercy, a true poet of love. Thank you, Richard. Rest in peace.
Richard, I'm going to read two poems for you tonight. The first one is a poem that I wrote for you, and the other one is another poem. When we first met at a poetry reading, I recognized you immediately as kindred, and I think you recognized me. Displaced people in a displaced world, in a society ruled by predators, feral creatures learning to survive, daring to even thrive, forever restlessly looking for a home, just looking for a home. You instinctively understood the source of your alienation, America's alienation, the price that all conquering and colonizing people must pay. Caught like leaves in an endlessly self-destructive cyclone of trying to build imperial dreams on stolen land, over the bones of native people, which can be hidden but never silenced. Colonizers, always doomed to watch those dreams of empire collapse into the lies at their foundation. You found your true sisters and brothers in the culture and struggles of Native people, holding fast to their life source, their identity, their connections to the land and to the natural world. And you found your companions in struggle among poets and artists and rebels and misfits, and among all seekers in the community of liberation. You understood that the only way through this is through transformation. So you transformed yourself. You followed a trail not visible to all. You became an elder who showed the way. You transformed yourself from victim into alchemist through the powers of poetry, then wandered your path back home to the source of all goodness. You found a home, Richard. You found a home. And the other poem that I'm going to read you tonight, Richard, is called Tired in Our Many Wanderings. Tired in our many wanderings, suddenly restless, remembering our mother and finding ourselves alone, searching wind and cloud for signs, then sensing the direction, we will head upstream without looking back and meet in the aspen meadows that no man owns, in the final hours of night. Watch Scorpio sink one last time beyond the western peak and listen to the sea 1,000 miles away rise up to meet her lover. Then crouch about the dying fire silent, sharing a last loaf of bread while smoke spirals colors through the shadows of our minds. High in the mountains, as dawn rises in the north and the axis finally shifts, we will look into our lover's eyes and see the forest. Look into the forest and see our lover's eyes. Then look behind her eyes and see the flames. Look behind the flames, beyond the flames, and see ourselves. We will take off our clothes and forget what we were and who we were. Forget where our bodies end and the universe begins. Step out of our minds through a secret cave we have always known and drift into each other. Together, together at last, home again among the animals, washed in the first drops of the coming rain. We'll join the dance. Bye, Richard.
Two poems. One I wrote the day that Richard passed, and another one just has a little excerpt of a conversation I had with him once at Sacred Grounds. And Richard was a mentor to me. And when I first initially stepped out to open mic, I met him at the Page Street location, Cat and Richard's Page Street reading, and he immediately invited me to Sacred Grounds, and he's done that for so many people. And then when I first featured at La Promenade, he took me aside and said, "Hey, Antoinette, I love your work, but I hate the way you present it. You know, let's work on that." So I just feel that he was such a mentor, and then even more. And I haven't written about this yet, but I want to, even more in depth. He is a mentor. He is a person who has shown me that the way a person lives their life is really the best thing they can offer to everybody. And I see that the way that we miss him so. And so anyway, I just wanted to thank Richard for all that, and then read this poem that I wrote for him when I found out that he had passed away. Pink skies filtered what's left is white specked blue yonder past the cliff house, covering all with dust and grime collected over decades. They're taking my furniture. Remember me, that's all I ask. An elder who stood for indigenous justice, prostrate before Ohloni's occupation of the bay. Spilling ancient tongues, truth prevails in deciphered details, persecution, evolution, revolution. A friend to poets and musicians, take it to the streets, let your freak flag fly. Sequined jacket can't compete with the sparkle in his eye. Kind and gruff helping hand, your middle finger always in use's face, your drums in step with your conviction to be of use to past, present, future generations and that planet, keenly aware of public land's climate fight, pass the lantern, yours is gone, rest in peace, we'll talk. And then I'd like to read this other one. It's called The Story of Things. Evil Gollum in Lord of the Rings kept his precious gold ring on hand until it dropped into the watery cave below the sinkhole, captured by its glint. Gifted trinket, lacquered enamel, cut glass studded frog opens to pale green glazed gut to keep tiny treasures. Favorite ornaments worn for years take on our smell, slip onto fingers shaped in contour. Handmade with diamond star, hovering sun goddess, faces the dove. She smiles. Artist signature written in gold on inside band. It says his name, Will Power. Someone's illusionary strength. Transmigrated, held for decades through conversations, tangible trust in elders' desire. She was hot, just his type, only 30 years his junior. When he walked away, regret set in. He should have stayed, wished he had. Taken turquoise studded pocket knife, cradled in his palm, warm, comforting keepsake, held in avoidance of a lurking affair.
I'm still sitting with the fact that I'll never see him again, and I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's a poem wants to come out, because he's such a incredible person. He's larger than life. He had there's so many aspects of Richard that I'm still processing. But I'm happy that I was able to, we did stuff together. I helped him design the poster for the 1428 poetry reading. And he would come to Chinatown and he supported a lot of my events. And I didn't realize that he has a breathing problem, that he can't walk for very far or for very long, and for him to climb those hills and come up to Chinatown to see me, it's just incredible. So a poem will probably eventually come out, but I just want to be here tonight to be with all of you, to remember him, and listening to your poems. It's very comforting for me. So thank you.
That's him, climbing those hills, knowing that it's going to be hard. He's going to do it anyway. He's determined and in support of people that are important, not just to him, but to the world in general, our society. He was a giver. Thank you.
So I'm wearing this beautiful thing. I'm not sure how to describe it exactly, what it is exactly, but I had helped Richard with a problem he was having with his landlord, and I guess I can say that now that Richard's gone, because but he was so grateful and just didn't know what to do for me, and I didn't want anything. I mean, I was glad to help him. What he came to Sacred Ground the following week, and he just presented me with this, and I have it. It's hanging in my room. It just hangs there, and I see it all the time. And it's something that today, when I was thinking about this event, I had to show it to everybody, because it's so beautiful. It's so Richard. It's something he would have worn. As someone commented on his style of dress, which was so wonderful. And honestly, I have to say, as a gay man, it was so wonderful to see a straight man being that free and liberated in the way he dressed and presented himself. He absolutely, it was amazing. I mean, I honestly thought only gay men were that free to decorate themselves and be what we would sometimes in this society consider feminine, God forbid, feminine. Oh my God, and Richard he just lived it. He lived it because that was him. And I love that about him. I loved that he could do that and be that person. And this last year, during this horrible COVID thing that we were all living under, Richard would call me every so often just to check in, and I would call him, but it was just amazing how he was so protective of his friends, and that he would just check in. He would just say, "Hey, I'm just calling to say hello and make sure you're okay. You're okay, right?" Like, "Yes, I'm okay, Richard. How are you?" Anyway, and I have a short poem that I will end with called Cursive Writer. And of course, it has the little, it has his quote at the beginning, just because you steal something doesn't mean you own it, which I'm sure will be the quote that lives on forever, Richard's quote. But Cursive Writer, USA couldn't muzzle you. The black robes couldn't keep you in their fold, their cult of the dead man on the cross. The politicians couldn't seduce you. The cursive writer, you flow through and around them, weaving words, spell casting webs to ensnare them in their own guilt. The gospel of a lion-hearted Richard, the truth they never want to hear. You're a mighty oak on sacred grounds, a lonely land, your roots impenetrable. No wonder the ancestors, the coyotes, the poets have embraced you and led you home. Thank you.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah,
That was great.
you said it.
Thank you.
I met the Cursive Writer at the Cafe International open mic on Fridays. And I remember at one point, after I'd known him for a few years, I did a set and I made a comment about being broke and having no money. And after my set, uh, the the actor Richard, he kind of corners me and he's like, "Do you need a little help?" And I'll just never forget that. He and I was like, "No, it's," and I told him I was okay, but he's like, "Are you sure?" And it's like, "Yeah, no," but I just he just always looked out for his people. He really, he was one, he'll show up, he'll fill a room. He started, getting people to come to the jazz on Sundays to do poetry, and you know and he was always telling, and he's just always wanted to make sure that that people were coming places, and people were supporting, artists were supporting other artists. And he was, yeah, he was always, he went to sets, and he was there. And I'm really gonna miss him, um because I just, yeah, I really, you know we may not always agree. And he was a very, he was had his opinions, but he really looked out for people. And and he's just, yeah, I've really been very sad. And I actually, and I didn't know him as well as folks, but I've known him for, since 2016. And and I just, yeah, and he always wanted other, get folks, always tell, "Oh, you need to get out there more. You need," and just trying to make sure people were heard. He wanted to make sure that the people who had messages were heard, and that was really important to him. And yeah, he is definitely very missed. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Just to echo a lot of what everybody has said, and there's been some really beautiful poems here tonight. I know there's a poem spinning in my head that hasn't found its way to paper, but will. But in the meantime, while we're all gathered, I wanted to share a little bit about what I've shared before, and kind of echoing on what Candy said, and others, was that Richard was not just a larger than life character, He was also a person who was a great empath and could recognize and see in people the pain and sit with you with it. I met him first at Sacred Ground, and we didn't really know each other. And then I went to 1428. And the first time I read, before he asked me to feature, I read a piece about, surviving sexual assault. And he came up to me. He was so supportive. And later, he would just periodically call me. And out of the blue. And in the beginning, we hardly knew each other, but we would talk for a couple hours. And he was so caring and supportive. He wanted to encourage me and other people to speak their truth, no matter how hard, no matter how painful or uncomfortable or whatever. And I felt he was a champion of survivors of all kinds of trauma. And I was very grateful for that. And we would check in with each other, and then we would go, times without talking. And the last really long conversation I had with him was over the holiday break last year. And I think the last time I talked to him was about a month before, his stroke and heart attack. And I will never forget how heard and seen that I felt in his presence, and how grateful that I was that he would challenge what everyone has accepted as norm. And I champion and honor and respect his bravery. I'm grateful, very grateful for his friendship. And there's a poem in there somewhere. I'll find it when it truly honors the person that he was. But thank you all. This has been a healing balm for me, and I'm grateful to be in your presence. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, wow.
I want to share two poems. First one I did not write, but was written by a woman named Elizabeth Bailey, who did not even know Richard that well, but I think she really captured his essence in this particular poem entitled Richard Reading. Richard the raven, brash and flash, the tricky messenger. Richard adorned, bejeweled fingers, turquoise and coral. Richard chapeaued, head dressed in braid, bead, and ribbon. Richard tagged with badge and button beacons. Richard enrobed in tribal patterned sheepskin vestment. Richard reading, cradling metal pulpit, directing his native heart, feelings from his mouth, smiling sound about Usa and us, the inhuman humans. Richard Reading by Elizabeth Bailey. And then I just I couldn't really think of much to write. I just threw a little something together, and I call it Richard waving. I look in the sky, and what do I see? Our friend Richard waving from a cloud of poetry, floating in feathered fedora, sporting bejeweled coat. Don't forget to leave the light on. Richard, please leave us a note. Don't forget us. Please let us know. What's it like when poets die? Do they still use words to be heard? Do they still use pens to write? Do they have mouths to speak, ears to listen? How do they convey the images in their minds? Richard, you always opined, we're still living on Ohlone land. We're still under the thumb of the man, and US is still in decline. Not much has changed since you permanently retired. Richard, please leave us a note. Don't forget to drop us a line, because some folks are dying to know just where do dead poets really go? And what do they do with all their spare time? Richard, our friend, we miss you blind.
Greg, for something that you threw together at the last minute, that was beautiful. Really loved it. I haven't written anything in the past 4 months. The last thing I did write, Richard is in a way. He's source material for some lines, but the thing about him is that, yeah, like everyone else has said, when I first went to Sacred Grounds, which is like the first place I went to read something in front of other people, Richard was the first person to, start a conversation with me. um, and when me and my sons tried to start something at another location, he was the first person to show up, and like be there and try to make something happen. um, he had that spirit. um, one of the things that 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 would always bother me about Richard was his catchphrase, because every time he said, just because you stole it, it doesn't mean it's yours. And I would say under my breath, but I thought that was the definition of private property, that property equals theft. And I used to kind of whisper it at him every once in a while, but that's just me. Uh, um, yeah, he was a beautiful, caring, constant cat, who was always so exquisitely adorned. Um, you know, I loved his kind of decorative properties, and and um, and I used to wonder about, I didn't open myself up to him as much as I wish I could have, because I didn't know, that how fragile his lifeline was. um and I'm sorry for that. uh and I really don't have anything written to share. But he was really, really, really a wonderful um welcomer for me, because it was only a few years ago that I started kind of letting myself write and perform, and he was, one of the first and main people who welcomed me and made me feel, like I was doing something important and valuable. um and and I will forever be thankful to Richard Sanderell for that, um even if he was wrong about property and theft. Love you, Richard, wherever you are. You know, your heart is huge, and you touched my life as well as many other people's lives. I know you're present in some way, and you will be, be present, because you had that kind of bigness about you that was more than yourself, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. I just remembered when the 1428 thing happened. You know, he reached out to me and invited me to be one of the early features, and then he kept trying to pay me. You know, and he would call me every couple of months. He would call me to, like, you know, what's your address? I need to send you this check, and I'd be like, okay, and I would just be like, you know, don't pay me, and he really wanted to pay me some money for my performance, but I kept avoiding it, and that's all.
So this poem is just named it called the Sanderell because David Erdreich used to have that as a nickname for him. We have to call him the Cursive Writer now. So it goes like this. Let me just. He came out of nowhere, it seems. We don't know where he was born, though there must have been a place, a hospital, or a house. But we don't know. We don't know the names of his birth parents, the name they might have given him, who his birth relatives would have been, are. We don't know his creation story, where, when, or how his parents met, why they chose one another, why he was abandoned. Back then there were reasons enough. Passions could go wrong, sickness, health, jobs, jealousy. He must have wondered about his parents, I mean, not ever knowing who left you or why. Did he ever know anything? Did he become a questioner because of that? We'll never know those answers, or these. How was it for him, growing up orphaned, a silent outcast, an innate nonconformist, challenged in legitimacy always challenged? Is that why he took on as he did, becoming his hometown's loose cannon, doubting his own becoming by questioning questions, and finding his quest after answers he never asked for? How did he wind up where he became who he was? Did he ever escape his own self-doubt? Who were you and why? How did you come to see things as you did, and why? What did you want most of all, and why? Where did you want to go, and why? Questions, my friends, most of which are not answerable. So we have a man of mystery, a man of passion, a man who was glad he was not God and never wished to be, one who never feared the fabled end of the world, declared he wouldn't want to continue on were he to make it through, not hopeful of a new world, not having hope that things would change for the better. Too much murder does that to a man. Too much deep pain pounded into a driven heart. Too many trials for a soul that found its voice late in life. Then perhaps too much joy and intimacy with the muse, making for his laughter, smiles, and renowned generosity. The Sanderell, David's nickname, one that I liked, but he became the Cursive Writer, and as such he'll be remembered. A poet of note, historical of weight. And so here, my friends, presente, Richard Sanderell.
Well, I realize I really miss Richard, and I used to go to Sacred Grounds a little bit, and I know many of the same people go to Bird and Beckett, but at one point I practically lived at Bird and Beckett, and it's open now, so I still go there in person. And Richard would go there as well as the other readings. And, I talked to him and chit chat about social issues. And my husband David at one time used to go to the readings at Bird and Beckett, though he didn't read there, just to listen. But I guess he knew Richard a little bit from their work in the past. And so then they would talk about that. But it was all about social issues. And I guess I didn't write anything. I tried to find a song that I thought kind of fit Richard and his personality and his view of the United States, but I couldn't ever seem to find anything. But I just realized I do miss him a lot. And that's all I have to say.
Very grateful to be here, and I'm so glad that we're having this, everyone. This was a good idea, and I'm glad it didn't happen immediately. There was a little time, and I just wrote a little thing, a heartfelt thing about Richard, and I'm going to read a few small things. First thing I want to say is, Richard, you are remembered and cherished for your clear-minded high ideals of a just world for all people who would be denied their natural inherent rights as human beings. And you're remembered for your passion for a better world for the first Americans, the indigenous peoples of the Americas, and for all of the issues that you cared about. You walked among friends, respected, while speaking truth to power relentlessly. Did I say relentlessly? Relentlessly, he spoke truth to power. Our humble community is small in the vast world. We're tiny in the universe. But your spirit was huge. And I just wanted to share this thing I read every now and then from Edgar Brightman. At least I'm assuming he was the author. It's how it came to me. Indomitable man, using the old terminology of gender, but indomitable humanity. No totalitarians, no wars, fears, famines, or perils of any kind can really break man's spirit until he breaks it himself by surrendering. Tyranny has many dread powers, but not the power to rule the spirit. It can break our spirits for a while, but humanity as a collective always comes back, and progress can always return, and there's always hope. At least that's what I feel. And the next thing I wanted to share was I had a thing, I couldn't find it, but it said no justice, K-N-O-W, like no justice, no about justice. And then under it, it said no justice, N-O, no peace. So where there is not justness in the world, there is not peace. So I wrote this poem about peace because I have a new perspective of it now after meeting Richard Sanderell. I used to really yearn for always feeling good and feeling peace and being able to relax from anxieties and all that good stuff. But meeting Richard and getting to know him, and he really grew on me, I really, really got that peace is remembering all the faces of love. I think I read this on the week after he died. Is there a little time still? Okay. Peace is not the absence of something we hate or fear, not forgetting our pain or our neighbor's trouble. Peace is remembering all the faces of love, being born and reborn in endless ways. Knowing what's true, what's happening in the world, and within one's own soul. Peace is taking one step in love's direction. It is shaking out our chains and helping others break their chains. Peace is the understanding of a person who has long traveled life's glories and tragedies and sees the bigger picture, as much as the innocence of a newborn, not yet touched by the riveting new reality about to burst forth on its little life. Peace is a warm light of caring, soaring above all else to loved ones, seeking their own peace, like a friend, like Richard, in need, surrounded by a circle of friendship that knows what love is. And I'm really glad that Richard had us and we had him. That's what makes the world go round with all its problems. And I'll just close with this little tiny thing from a book called This Book Is Not for Sale by someone, Jay Kint. Some people try to change the world one life at a time. Others try to change the world one death at a time. And I try to change the world one bucket full of dirt at a time.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
There's lots of things that I'd like to say. He's been gone for 3 months, and it's been very hard because I think of him like a firework. So when I see and I hear that big explosion and those big, beautiful colors that lit up the sky in front of our eyes, I think about his courage to get out there and walk. People said he had a hard time sometimes getting to walk from place to place to do what he loved to do. But he believed in everybody so much that he did this. He took one foot in front of the other. And I heard Dan say, I don't know that much about his childhood, but for some reason, he told me a little bit more about that. And I think it was maybe because he felt like he wasn't feeling well and he needed people to know what his childhood was like. And it was not pleasant, of course, like Dan said, but however, he seemed to have some sort of fascination with wonder in his eyes, wonder in his heart, and the wonder of what it might have been like to actually have those parents that he really wished would have been there. And those, there's so many people that wish that. So many people wish they had those supportive parents, but sometimes when you don't, it gives you character. And that's what he had, that character. The Cursive writer, when I first saw him and I saw the mask and everything, I was like, this is so wonderful. He's dressing up for us and he feels the spirit and he doesn't want anybody to take anything from anyone else. And that's ergo, like I said, his speeches about not taking, not stealing, living on the lands of Deviloni and just being there. Well, I have different kinds of ways to entertain people. So I am from the South, and he took on this thought, and I'm still working on it because it's been hard because I've had a lot of different things that I have to go through. But his idea is the Shakespeare thing. And when I researched it, I'm related to some of this stuff. So I've really got to do it. The Southern Shakespeare, people from the South, this language, keep the language alive and do it the way Richard had envisioned it. It may take a little bit, but I really am serious about helping his ideas and his dreams come back. And I'm so proud of you guys for getting together some of his writing, making it possible for us to still see his words and give everybody across the nation and even the world that got to see him because he was out there. He came to our Poetry in the Brew and we had a lot of people from many different countries and that really fascinated him as well. He just always wondered why some people didn't accept his poetry the way that, it was done. But I told him, don't worry, your words mean something to us. They mean something to all of us. In his last phone call, right after I spoke, because it just happened to be that night, that he actually, fell and had to be called into the hospital to see what his future might be. And he still didn't know. He still had hope, and he laid there and spoke to us poets and waited for letters, in which mine went out but came back to me stating that it looked like it was my post office sent it out the day before he died, because I did send it in, but it just didn't get to where he was. But I know that can't happen, and a lot of people said they got mail back and had that kind of thing. But at least let me tell you, keep that letter, because later you'll remember that you wrote to him, that you gave him something that you know that he would treasure, even if you still have it in your hands and it traveled so far to become something that might be a piece of yours. You were a piece of him. Everybody who knows him, he collected you and put you in his heart and thought about you every day. I know while he was laying there, even when he was half out of it, he's, let's do this poetry thing, okay, guys? Well, anyway, I won't be long-winded, but I'll just say that those things mean a lot to me. And thank you. I have written some poems later on. Maybe I could share them. But it's just, I didn't have them in front of me right now, but I just want to make sure that you guys know how much Richard cared and loved each and every one of us in his own special way. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad you're here. He really liked your poetry. He said that to me more than once.
Was very supportive of me as well, and wanted to find some way to pass to play show my appreciation, and I don't. Well, he seemed to like everything I did, so I don't really have a specific poem in mind. I'll just have to read something that's whatever's current. And but in any case, he was a very helpful influence on me, and then particularly at a time when I was having doubts about my own health. And so I'll just read a couple of current pieces, and just hope he can hear them wherever in the hereafter. CEOs and governors bleat quite merrily. How come our profits don't grow? Why can't we get them to flow? Of course, there's a reason why our profits don't grow. Our flunkies are seized now refuse to sprout. They have no appreciation for the feed we give them. Why they forgot to worship us, that $7.25 don't come cheap, you know. Now they want at least 15 per hour yet. We had to call on our governors to remind and learn those unappreciables to be thankful for what they can get. Gee, can we help it if our fee is so minuscule that unemployed benefits sustain them better? God, we all so desperately wish the day could come back once more when we were able to rule them for free. And the second piece is called 22 and a half years. That's what the murderer Derek Chauvin has got for the death of George Floyd. Could it have been more or could it have been less? But whatever, one is inclined to ponder this query. A year apiece for an alleged counterfeit dollar plus interest?
People said very much similar things to you: supportive, engaging, caring. And when he liked something, he would just pour it on. He would not hold back. He said, "I like that. That's great." And he was like a cheerleader for a lot of people. And why should I say like it? He was a cheerleader for a lot of people. So.
If I have anything to add to what's already been said, just thought I'd add a little contribution of some sort, if nothing else, to acknowledge that, to acknowledge his importance with me as well.
Thank you. So at this point, if anybody wants to say anything more or share a tiny bit, we can do that. So Revolt, I see you.
Yeah. I just want to say it's been really beautiful hearing everyone's words. and I feel like I've learned a lot about Richard I didn't know before tonight, and that's really cool. Like that's a cool way to kind of continue him on, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful to hear all those stories. And for some reason, I don't know why, but one of the things I'll always remember about Richard was when my roommate came to the only Sacred Grounds thing he's ever come to on, video chat, and he told me the only thing he had to say about like all the other poets that were there, like everyone is Sacred Grounds. And it was a filled house, but he said, "Who was that one guy? That one guy is like an old pirate." And I don't know why, but that's what I remember.
That's great. That's great. Old pirate. And I saw, Karen, I saw your comment. Yeah, right now, Antoinette and I are going to keep the 1428 going, but then, other people can, chip in and help it make it work. So that's currently what we're doing, and like I say, other people are free to join in the fun and make it continue
I'll
on.
just say that Brit's in there too. You and I.
Britt, that's right. That's right. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me of that. So there are three of us then.
I'm happy to help. Yeah, if I can help.
All right, that's great. That's great. It's
We got four.
Many hands make light work. I just remember, for me, the story that I was telling you about the smiling, smirking, and laughter. One of my communication interaction strangenesses is, like if I can, when I talk to somebody, a stranger or anybody, I like to get them to laugh. I mean, it's part of what I do and stuff. And he was such a hard nut to crack. I had, it was interesting. And I didn't make a purposely point of it, but I just kept on going for the low bars, go like, well, I'll make a pun out of that, or I'll say, "Did you just say?" And he go, "No, I didn't say that." Well, I thought you said it, but I didn't say. Well, I thought you said. And it was funny. It was really an enjoyable, because he had a great laugh. I mean, some people, they do this, that, but he would just let, ha ha ha. He had a great one. It was.
He would have laughed like that if you told him people think he's a pirate.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, he had such a great sense of humor, and he was, like people said here, I mean, he was just so supportive of my work. And when everyone else is telling me to tone it down, take it down a notch, I mean, he's telling me take it up a notch. So he's like, I'm ready for more of this.
Yeah.
And I have so much respect for folks that go through their entire life. It's hard being a rebel. It's hard revolting all the time. Sometimes you do kind of want to mellow out and get with the program, a little less friction, and it takes a strength of character. It takes a certain strength of character to be like, I mean, damn, I just hope I can be like Richard someday. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go out just like that. Just like, I mean, he was probably saying like some fuck USA shit, like the week he died. You know what I mean? Like he never toned it down.
He never toned it down. There was this one piece he wrote about. It was, it was strange. It's about the American flag, and it's the refrain is this is the flag that blank 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 blank, and he read it like 2 or 3 times at Sacred Grounds, to the point where I was bringing in old American flag, the American flag that had 48 stars on it that I had found in the classroom, and I would bring that, and he would read that poem, right? But then I saw it on paper, and the thing wasn't even a page long. But every time I heard him, I thought it was like this huge thing. And it was so bizarre that there was so much. And then someone told me it's because of what was going through my mind, all the things that I was thinking of because of what he was saying. And there's been several other poets that did the same kind of thing with their pieces, where you think it's a really long piece and you look at it, but where's the rest of it? It's amazing. It was amazing.
He was very good at helping us to examine ourselves. And I also just want to give a shout out to Tommy and Greg for really, and other folks, but like those pieces today really spoke to his expression of his appearance. You know, his Greg with the bejeweled coat and the feathered fedora, and what Tommy was sharing earlier too, and about the femininity, and I never thought of it that way, and it's so true. Like he was so free in his expression, and he looked kind of like a wizard to me.
Yeah, there was an enchanting aspect to it. I remember one time I said, "So, do you have enough colors on?" And he said, "No."
He was the queerest straight guy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Also, one way that Richard will, at least I'm sure, live on in many ways, but my plan is to share that video and that same piece with the poetry group I go to in New York on Friday. So I will be introducing Richard there.
This is by Richard, published in Poets 11 in 2016. And it's called Crying Wind. After traveling underground, I arise into the light. I hear the chaos of our lives, but underneath the sound of the drum, the heartbeat of pain, passion, racing. Escalator pushes me off. I turn and see the drummer, aged by the streets, this sad-eyed native with the blue chants and drums that drives the dancer. This aboriginal dancer dances from past memory, drowned in alcohol, fueled by fury. This dance is his protection. He bobs, weaves, hands pump, jabs, eyes blacker than the deepest caves. Long, dull black hair blows onto his face, sticking to his skin. Divorced from himself as well as his people, he dances among the Americans with their manifest destiny eyes, who only see just another couple of drunken Indians. I know this dancer. He would pick a fight so he could feel something, anything, even if it was filled with hurt. His name was Crying Wind, and this is how he lived. I will never know all the things that drove him to this, but I do know this man was robbed. There is a story where one character who complains about all the drunk Indians, the other answers that maybe he ought to be glad they're all drunk. Imagine what would happen if they got sober. And I so long for that day. That was Richard Sanderell, Crying Wind.
That's one of my favorites of his. I just
I
read
love
that one night at Sacred and just tore the place up. It was huge. Yeah. Thank you for reading that. Kellyanne, I saw you. You know it by heart. Well done. Well done. Beautiful.
Thank you for reading that.
I wanted Richard to get a word in edgewise towards the end here.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the way.
I have to get going, folks. I have to be up early tomorrow for work. So
good night, Tommy.
Thank you. This was amazing, and I really needed this.
Yeah.
This really helped.
We all did.
To say goodbye to Richard.
Yeah.
This has been lacking in these these weeks since he died. This has really been lacking, and I'm really glad that this happened. So thank you, Dan, and everybody else who organized this.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Tommy, for your inspiration and for celebrating Richard's life. Very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Take
Thank
care,
you all.
We'll
everybody.
see you all
Well,
tomorrow night.
I'm off too. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for the inspiration.
Take
And Richard,
care.
rest in peace.
Richard, rest
Goodbye.
in
Bye
peace.
bye.
Bye.
See you
See you all
later.
next time.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you, Dan, and thank you,
Bye, John.
everyone, for coming.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
Richard.
Bye-bye. Good night.
What would he have thought of the theme tomorrow? Anyway, I'll see you. Bye.
Bye,
Alice.
Alice.
Nice.
you,
Nice.
everybody. It was really good.
Yeah. I mean, we had some. I mean, just like one right after. It was like a fire set of fire. Boom, 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 boom. It was great. I mean, just some. And I learned some things about Richard that I didn't know, which was really great. We had a mixture of people just talking and poetry and memories. The memories were like wonderful.
Yeah, everybody had a little bit of something to share about their
Yeah, their
experience.
take and like that. What a character. What
Yeah.
a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
surprising how we miss him so. It's surprising how I miss him so.
You know, it's just like
Maybe because it was
oh, it was fast. It was
coming.
just like,
Yeah.
here and then not here. Like that, like that's one of the things about life that I really don't like.
Yeah.
It's strange.
It's just, you never know. Like a friend of mine, a long time ago, my friend of mine said, you never know when which pair of shoes is going to be your last. I thought, well, that's a crazy way to say it, but I knew what he meant.
It's true.
So, boy, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.